Mike, what's not going away this because we back, baby. We back. We killing it with these draft videos, and we're gonna keep killing it. And today we got Jayson Oweh. So how
None
you doing, Mike?
none other than Jayson Oweh. I'm doing good. I was excited to get into Jayson. I'll be completely honest. I checked out PFF's edge defender grades, and they had Jayson as number 2. So I was incredibly intrigued to see what we were working with here. As you guys know, don't always agree with PFF on this channel. More often than not, we don't. But yeah, getting into some background, I'll be honest, I was pretty confused initially with what I saw from Jayson. He's raw. We could say that. He's raw. That's what I have in my notes in all caps. He just started playing the sport his junior year of high school, and I think that is very evident as soon as you put on the film. Mike, speak to that.
I totally agree. Just as kind of a video we did a couple back was Aziz from Georgia, where it's very technical. Like you could tell he's played the position for a while and has learned from it. Kind of you saw progression. And I guess you do see progression here, just at a slower rate. He still needs to learn the sport. There was basically zero pass rush. I won't say zero. He attempted at occasions, but the technique was not there. Um, but he did show, I think, one of the most consistent first steps that we've seen so far, which is something that you can't necessarily teach. So he has a lot of those intangibles. It's now putting that to work at a more consistent basis, yet to be seen. And that's what these stats show.
No, that's a great way to put it, Mike. When it comes to his just raw sort of athleticism, this man reportedly, I'm going to say reportedly because we haven't seen the pro day numbers yet, but he reportedly runs a 4.33 40-yard dash, which that's that's some of the best wide. That's Tyreek Hill numbers. That's insane if that is true. Has a 36.5-inch vert and 127-inch broad. So physical freak, beyond belief actually. But how does it translate on tape? I think that might kind of hit the nail on the head there, where the explosiveness and quickness, that's off the charts. I only gave him a 14 because I thought that he was a little bit inconsistent at times. If he could just get a better feel for, when his hand's in the dirt, watching the ball out of the corner of his eye, and as soon as it's snapped, him going, I think that, which will come with time, I think that he could easily be a 15 and one of the best guys that we've seen in a while. After that, in terms of defending the run, highly questionable. I'll be honest. I thought with a guy of his raw athletic numbers, I was kind of expecting a little bit better in this department. But I guess when you're having trouble just diagnosing how these guys are blocking you, you're going to struggle. And that's one thing that, as you can see with his block recognition and awareness grade, he most certainly did. I think that hurt him in his ability to set the edge and anchor as well. Flexibility, bend, it's certainly there. Maybe not to the extent that his quickness and explosiveness is, but it's still there. Hand usage, as Mike said, he was busting out some pass rush moves every now and then, but the effectiveness was not quite there. You'd see a random spin, a couple swims, but a lot of times you'd see him get jammed in the chest or in the side and stuck right there. So, Mike, with that being said, what are your thoughts on just my grade of Jayson in general here?
I agree. I think that's right where it needs to be. As you can see, it's like a lot of the just pure athleticism, like grades are high on a lot of things that are a little bit more technical and just, you know, there's a lot to be desired. But and I will say a lot of these, I think in a couple years he could definitely raise his grade quite substantially, get him in the right coaching staff. So I think right now raw grade, I think that falls right in line with where he actually falls. But I think he has a high ceiling, and we've said raw quite a bit with a lot of these DNs and pass rushers that we've looked at, and you know, uh, there is that. If I'm looking for a raw DN, Away or Rousseau, I think it's a question, but I think I'm taking Rousseau. But you might be able to get better value here. This might be more of a mid to late second or early third, and I think that you know for a raw prospect, it's going to take a couple years. So you're not going to give up that first round draft capital to get a prospect that might require a little bit of work. So, but I think right now, currently with the film out there, I think that grade fits right in line.
No, and that's definitely the thing. I know if you were a team, or say you're a self scout, kind of like we are here. If your grade sheet was much more weighed towards the physical side of things, in terms of, okay, we want somebody who's just a crazy athlete and then we can mold him this way, then he might grade much more highly for you. I think that's kind of where PFF is seeing things that, oh, you can teach him how to do this and defend the run and this, that, and the other. But you can't teach his intangibles. And I agree with that to an extent. But I know Mike and I personally, we value how you play the game right now a little bit more. I think that the film, they always say, oh, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. And I think that to an extent that's very true when evaluating how guys are going to translate from college to the NFL game. So with that being said, we did want to try something out a little bit new here in terms of, we got rid of the graphs for this video because I realized they were super hard to see on your phone. So I apologize for the last couple batches of videos if you guys couldn't see those. But instead, what we did was we brought out the raw grades that we've talked about. And instead of having to continually reiterate that, oh, there's a position premium and an 80 for a running back isn't the same as an 80 for a D end, I put it into practice here so you guys can kind of see how I actually think that these guys would be graded. So obviously his raw grade was a 70 because the position he plays. I would say for me that translates to about a 73.85, right around a 74, which pits him at the top of the third round. That's where I would feel comfortable selecting him. Again, if you're somebody who weighs for the more physical traits, I think you would probably have him a little bit higher. But Mike, you're right in line with this.
Yep, I think right in line. I really like this our big board so far. I think there's a couple things I would change kind of through our conversations. I might actually have Away a little bit higher. Kind of looking at the grades. Well, they're purely grades, but I probably have them over Kylan Hill or Stevenson myself, because I do like that position. That position premium. Um, but I would say, Stevenson at Hill at the running back position are better prospects all around than probably Oweh is as, a DN. So I think that falls right in line. But it's really, dependent. We talk a lot about, when you're drafting, are you going best player available? Or are you going position of need? Um, Me and you have always definitely leaned front seven quite a bit we always wanted, but being Lions, it's always seemed like the front seven's been a position of need. So, um, kind of looking at it, I have a way over those two, but kind of taking a step back, maybe not.
Yeah, and that's definitely the thing that we have talked about in previous videos is that, say, okay, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, right, and we're talking about quarterbacks here, your position premium for quarterbacks is going to be minimal, right? But here for another team, if you're the Jaguars, your position premium for a QB might be 10%, right? And that's kind of what you can see here. So I just based this off how I sort of view the game. I have the defensive ends, they get 5.5% of their own grade back into themselves, whereas running backs get 1.5%. Not to get all technical on you guys, but I think that you can kind of see how the positions compare that way. It would be different from team to team, though. So obviously, if Mike goes higher on edge rusher, he might have 6.5%, 7.5%, and that might put Jayson a little bit higher on the board. But with that being said, Mike, I did want to get into just the comparison between him, say Rousseau, Phillips, and Basham. Where do you think he ranks between those guys? I know you're a little bit higher on Rousseau than I was, but do you think he's second, third, fourth? Where is he in that discussion?
I think really the only one I have an argument with is Rousseau and Phillips. I think I'd probably swap those two. But I think Away really is that third guy in that group. I think if I'm going for and maybe part of it's because Rousseau, in a way, we've talked about very raw prospects. I think one just has the intangibles and like flashed a little bit more in Rousseau. So um, that's why I would take him over Away, and that's why I'm kind of dropping. If I'm looking just for a raw pass rusher, I think there's a big gap between those two. But I think that falls right in line. Those four, I think by far the closest is Rousseau and Phillips, and then I think there is a pretty big gap from Away, and there's a pretty big gap to Basham.
No, I think we're pretty much in the same ballpark in terms of, I would say that's the order, but then I would say the gap maybe is a little bit more tight between Owe and Basham. But again, when the grades are so close, it's kind of just your preference at that point. So Mike, do you have anything else to say here, or are we good to go?
Yeah, speaking of being close, Rousseau and Phillips being from Florida, you're close. Working on a low budget. I'm just kidding. Mike's been doing a great job with these. He puts them all together, so we appreciate it. But if you guys have noticed, Florida, it's Miami. It's close enough, right? But hey, we're close to being a really good, just football channel. If you guys think so as well, leave a like, comment, subscribe. We enjoy doing this. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed watching these. If your team drafts one of these players and you're just kind of looking back to some of your general thoughts on these players, hopefully you clicked on this video. And if you like it, leave a comment. So with that, anything, Mike?
Yeah, I was just going for the state. No. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I think we're mic'd up, and now we're micing out. Peace,
Deuces.
guys.